The lights of the grand auditorium shimmered like tiny stars, reflecting off the polished wooden stage. The crowd murmured with anticipation, waiting for the next performer. It was the semi-finals of Asia's Rising Voices, a show that had already produced unforgettable moments. But no one expected that night's quietest contestant, a barefoot boy from a forgotten fishing village, would be the one to silence the world. Backstage, Miguel Santos, just 14 years old, sat clutching a battered, second-hand guitar. Its body was scratched and faded, strings slightly rusted, but to him, it was sacred. It wasn't just an instrument, it was the last thing his father had left behind before the sea took him. Miguel stared at his reflection in the metal of his guitar tuning pegs, trying to calm his trembling hands. His mother, who sold dried fish in their small coastal town, had saved for months, just to afford the bus ride to Manila. The contest offered not only fame, but a scholarship, and the chance to lift his family out of the life of hunger and storms. He whispered softly, "For you, Papa," and stepped into the light. The host smiled warmly, bending slightly to the microphone. "And now, we have Miguel Santos from Baton. What will you be performing tonight?" Miguel's voice was small, almost shy. I'll sing back, Hotel California." A murmur rippled through the judges. It was a bold choice, a classic, almost sacred song, that few dared to touch. One of the judges, a well-known rock vocalist, leaned back skeptically. "That's a big song, kid," he said. Miguel nodded nervously. "It's my father's favorite. He used to play it every night before he left." The host gave a soft nod, and the lights dimmed. The first gentle chords echoed across the silent hall, slightly uneven, but pure, full of soul. And then, Miguel began to sing. His voice wasn't perfect, it cracked slightly on the higher notes, trembled in places, but it carried something no technical perfection could ever achieve: truth. Every lyric seemed to bleed from a memory. The words "such a lovely place" felt like a distant dream, a place he longed to find, a home without sorrow, a life without loss. The audience began to still. One by one, the whispers faded. His voice floated like sea mist, soft yet heavy with emotion. The judges leaned forward unconsciously, drawn into the invisible thread of pain and beauty that trapped around every word. As Miguel reached the guitar solo, his small hands danced across the strings, his eyes closed. In his mind, he saw his father's silhouette under the orange sunset, strumming the same song on the shore. He remembered the laughter, the smell of the ocean, the way his father always said, "Music can heal anything." But then came the storm, the night that changed everything. His father's fishing boat never returned. The sea that had fed them had taken him away. And every night since, Miguel played Hotel California, to keep his father alive in his heart. By the time he reached the last haunting line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," tears had already begun streaming down his face. But he didn't stop. He played until the last string faded into silence. For a long moment, the hall was completely still. Then, a sound, a single clap, broke the silence. Another followed. And then, like a wave, the entire auditorium rose to its feet, erupting in applause and cheers. The judge's eyes were red. The rock vocalist who had doubted him earlier stood up, and wiped his face. "Miguel," he said, his voice cracking, "I've sung that song hundreds of times, but tonight, I heard it for the first time." The golden buzzer glowed. The button came down. Confetti rained. Miguel fell to his knees, clutching his guitar, sobbing openly. Backstage, the host found him sitting quietly again, holding a small seashell necklace in his hand, his father's. "How do you feel?" the host asked softly. Miguel smiled through his tears. "I think I made him proud tonight." That performance would go viral overnight, tens of billions of views within days. But for Miguel, fame was never the goal. He used his winnings to rebuild their small home by the shore, buy his mother a new stall, and start music lessons for children in his village. Kids who had dreams but no instruments, just like him. Once every weekend, as the sun dipped below the waves, he'd sit by the sea with his guitar, and play Hotel California. Only now, he wasn't playing for loss, he was playing for gratitude, for love that never left. Narrator's voice, for closing line. Sometimes, it's not the biggest stage or the loudest voice that touches hearts, it's the quiet song of a boy who never stopped believing that love echoes forever.